160 years old. We have a healthier country than I thought, Bobby. Including, to finish, 1,039 people between the ages of 220 and 229, one person between the age of 240 and 249, and one person is listed at 360 years of age. More than 100 years older than our country. But we're going to find out where that money's going, and it's not going to be pretty. By slashing all of the fraud, waste, and theft we can find, we will defeat inflation, bring down mortgage rates, lower car payments and grocery prices, protect our seniors, and put more money in the pockets of American families. And today, interest rates took a beautiful drop, big, beautiful drop. It's about time. And in the near future, I want Gold Card, which goes on sale very, very soon. For $5 million, we will allow the most successful job-creating people from all over the world to buy a path to U.S. tax in our country. They won't have to pay tax from where they came. The criminals, killers, traffickers, and child predators who are allowed to enter our country under the open border policy of these people, the Democrats, the Biden administration, the open border insane policies that you've allowed to destroy our country. We will now bring in brilliant, hardworking, job-creating people. They're going to pay a lot of money, and we're going to reduce our debt with that money. Americans have given us a mandate for bold and profound change. For nearly 100 years, the federal bureaucracy has grown until it has crushed our freedoms, ballooned our deficits, and held back America's potential in every possible way. The nation founded by pioneers and risk takers now drowns under millions and millions of pages of regulations and debt. Approvals that should take 10 days to get instead take 10 years, 15 years, and even 20 years before you're rejected. Meanwhile, we have hundreds of thousands of federal workers who have not been showing up to work. My administration will reclaim power from this unaccountable bureaucracy, and we will restore true democracy to America again. And any federal bureaucrat who resists this change will be removed from office immediately. Because we are draining the swamp. It's very simple. And the days of rule by unelected bureaucrats are over. And the next phase of our plan to deliver the greatest economy in history is for this Congress to pass tax cuts for everybody. They're in there. They're waiting for you to vote. And I'm sure that the people on my right, I don't mean the Republican right, but my right here, I'm sure you're going to vote for those tax cuts, because otherwise I don't believe the people will ever vote you into office. So I'm doing you a big favor by telling you that. But I know this group is going to be voting for the tax. Thank you. It's a very, very big part of our plan. We had tremendous success in our first term with it. A very big part of our plan. We're seeking permanent income tax cuts all across the board. And to get urgently needed relief to Americans hit especially hard by inflation, I'm calling for no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security benefits for our great seniors. And I also want to make interest payments on car loans tax deductible, but only if the car is made in America. And by the way, we're going to have growth in the auto industry like nobody's ever seen. Plants are opening up all over the place. Deals are being made. Never seen. That's a combination of the election win and tariffs. It's a beautiful word, isn't it? That, along with our other policies, will allow our auto industry to absolutely boom. It's going to boom. Spoke to the majors today, all three, the top people, and they're so excited. In fact, already numerous car companies have announced that they will be building massive automobile plants in America, with Honda just announcing a new plant in Indiana, one of the largest anywhere in the world. And this has taken place since our great victory on November 5th, a date which will hopefully go down as one of the most important in the history of our country. In addition, as part of our tax cuts, we want to cut taxes on domestic production and all manufacturing. And just as we did before, we will provide 100% expensing. It will be retroactive to January 20th, 2025. And it was one of the main reasons why our tax cuts were so successful in our first term, giving us the most successful economy in the history of our country. First term. We had a great first term. If you don't make your product in America, however, under the Trump administration, you will pay a tariff, and in some cases, a rather large one. Other countries have used tariffs against us for decades, and now it's our turn to start using them against those other countries. On average, the European Union, China, Brazil, India, Mexico, and Canada, have you heard of them? And countless other nations charge us tremendously higher tariffs than we charge them. It's very unfair. India charges us auto tariffs higher than 100%. China's average tariff on our products is twice what we charge them. And South Korea's average tariff is 4 times higher. Think of that, 4 times higher. And we give so much help militarily and in so many other ways to South Korea. But that's what happens. This is happening by friend and foe. This system is not fair to the United States and never was. And so on April 2nd, I wanted to make it April 1st, but I didn't want to be accused of April Fool's Day. That's not just one day was cost us a lot of money. But we're going to do it in April. I'm a very superstitious person. April 2nd, reciprocal tariffs kick in. And whatever they tariff us, other countries, we will tariff them. That's reciprocal, back and forth. Whatever they tax us, we will tax them. If they do non-monetary tariffs to keep us out of their market, then we will do non-monetary barriers to keep them out of our market. There's a lot of that, too. They don't even allow us in their market. We will take in trillions and trillions of dollars and create jobs like we have never seen before. I did it with China and I did it with others, and the Biden administration couldn't do anything about it because there was so much money they couldn't do anything about it. We have been ripped off for decades by nearly every country on earth, and we will not let that happen any longer. Much has been said over the last 3 months about Mexico and Canada, but we have very large deficits with both of them. But even more importantly, they've allowed fentanyl to come into our country at levels never seen before, killing hundreds of thousands of our citizens and many very young, beautiful people, destroying families. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. They are, in effect, receiving subsidies of hundreds of billions of dollars. We pay subsidies to Canada and to Mexico of hundreds of billions of dollars, and the United States will not be doing that any longer. We're not going to do it any longer. Thanks to our America First policies we're putting into place, we have had $1.7 trillion of new investment in America in just the past few weeks. The combination of the election and our economic policies that people of SoftBank, one of the most brilliant anywhere in the world, announced a $200 billion investment. OpenAI and Oracle, Larry Ellison, announced $500 billion investment, which they wouldn't have done if Kamala had won. Apple announced $500 billion investment. Tim Cook called me. He said, I cannot spend it fast enough. It's going to be much higher than that, I believe. They'll be building their plants here instead of in China. And just yesterday, Taiwan Semiconductor, the biggest in the world, most powerful in the world, has a tremendous amount, 97% of the market, announced a $165 billion investment to build the most powerful chips on earth right here in the USA. And we're not giving them any money. Your CHIPS Act is a horrible, horrible thing. We give hundreds of billions of dollars, and it doesn't mean a thing. They take our money and they don't spend it. All that meant to them, we're giving them no money. All that was important to them was they didn't want to pay the tariffs, so they came and they're building, and many other companies are coming. We don't have to give them money. We just want to protect our businesses and our people. And they will come because they won't have to pay tariffs if they build in America. So it's very amazing. You should get rid of the CHIP Act, and whatever's left over, Mr. Speaker, you should use it to reduce debt or any other reason you want to. Our new trade policy will also be great for the American farmer. I love the farmer. Who will now be selling into our home market, the USA, because nobody is going to be able to compete with you. Because those goods that come in from other countries and companies, they're really in a bad position in so many different ways. They're uninspected. They may be very dirty and disgusting, and they come in and they pour in and they hurt our American farmers. The tariffs will go on agricultural product coming into America, and our farmers, starting on April 2nd, it may be a little bit of an adjustment period. We had that before when I made the deal with China, $50 billion of purchases, and I said, just bear with me, and they did. They did. Probably have to bear with me again, and this will be even better. That was great. The problem with it was that Biden didn't enforce it. He didn't enforce it. $50 billion of purchases, and we were doing great, but Biden did not enforce it, and it hurt our farmers. But our farmers are going to have a field day right now. So to our farmers, have a lot of fun. I love you too. I love you too. It's all going to happen. And I have also imposed a 25% tariff on foreign aluminum, copper, lumber, and steel because if we don't have, as an example, steel and lots of other things, we don't have a military and frankly we just won't have a country very long. Here today is a proud American steelworker, fantastic person from Decatur, Alabama, Jeff Denard. Has been working at the same steel plant for 27 years in a job that has allowed him to serve as the captain of his local volunteer fire department, raise 7 children with his beautiful wife, Nicole, and over the years provide a loving home for more than 40 foster children. So great, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Stories like Jeff's remind us that tariffs are not just about protecting American jobs. They're about protecting the soul of our country. Tariffs are about making America rich again and making America great again, and it's happening, and it will happen rather quickly. There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. It won't be much. No, you're not. Oh. And look where Biden took us, very low, the lowest we've ever been. Jeff, I want to thank you very much. And I also want to recognize another person who has devoted herself to foster care community. She works so hard on it. A very loving person, our magnificent First Lady of the United States. Melania's work has yielded incredible results, helping prepare our nation's future leaders as they enter the workforce. Our First Lady is joined by 2 impressive young women, very impressive. Haley Ferguson, who benefited from the First Lady's Fostering the Future initiative and is poised to complete her education and become a teacher. And Elliston Berry, who became a victim of an illicit deepfake image produced by a peer. With Elliston's help, the Senate just passed the Take It Down Act, and this is so important. Thank you very much, John. John Thune, thank you. Stand up, John. Thank you, John. Thank you all very much. Thank you. And thank you to John Thune and the Senate. Great job. To criminalize the publication of such images online is a terrible, terrible thing. And once it passes the House, I look forward to signing that bill into law. Thank you. And I'm going to use that bill for myself, too, if you don't mind. Because nobody gets treated worse than I do online. Nobody. That's great. Thank you very much to the Senate. Thank you. But if we truly care about protecting Americans' children, no step is more crucial than securing America's borders. Over the past 4 years, 21 million people poured into the United States. Many of them were murderers, human traffickers, gang members, and other criminals from the streets of dangerous cities all throughout the world. Because of Joe Biden's insane and very dangerous open border policies, they are now strongly embedded in our country, but we are getting them out and getting them out fast. And I want to thank Tom Homan and Christy. I want to thank you and Paul of Border Patrol. I want to thank you. What a job they've all done. Everybody, Border Patrol, ICE, law enforcement in general is incredible. We have to take care of our law enforcement. Have to. Last year, A brilliant 22-year-old nursing student named Laken Riley, the best in her class, admired by everybody, went out for a jog on the campus of the University of Georgia. That morning, Laken was viciously attacked, assaulted, beaten, brutalized, and horrifically murdered. Laken was stolen from us by a savage illegal alien gang member who was arrested while trespassing across Biden's open southern border and then set loose into the United States under the heartless policies of that failed administration. It was indeed a failed administration. He had then been arrested and released in a Democrat-run sanctuary city, a disaster, before ending the life of this beautiful young angel. With us this evening are Laken's beloved mother, Allison, and her sister, Lauren. Last year, I told Laken's grieving parents that we would ensure their daughter would not have died in vain. That's why the very first bill I signed into law as your 47th president mandates the detention of all dangerous criminal aliens who threaten public safety. It's a very strong, powerful act. It's called the Laken-Riley Act. So Allison and Lauren, America will never, ever forget our beautiful Laken Hope Riley. Thank you very much. Since taking office, my administration has launched the most sweeping border and immigration crackdown in American history, and we quickly achieved the lowest numbers of illegal border crossers ever recorded. Thank you. The media and our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation. We must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president. Thank you. Joe Biden didn't just open our borders, he flew illegal aliens over them to overwhelm our schools, hospitals, and communities throughout the country. Entire towns like Aurora, Colorado, and Springfield, Ohio, buckled under the weight of the migrant occupation and corruption like nobody's ever seen before. Beautiful towns destroyed. Now, just as I promised in my inaugural address, we are achieving the great liberation of America. But there still is much work to be done. Here tonight is a woman I have gotten to know, Alexis Nungari from Houston. Wonderful woman. Last June, Alexis's 12-year-old daughter, her precious Jocelyn, walked to a nearby convenience store. She was kidnapped, tied up, assaulted for 2 hours under a bridge, and horrifically murdered. Arrested and charged with this heinous crime are two illegal alien monsters from Venezuela, released into America by the last administration through their ridiculous open border. The death of this beautiful 12-year-old girl and the agony of her mother and family touched our entire nation greatly. Alexis, I promised that we would always remember your daughter, your magnificent daughter. And earlier tonight, I signed an order keeping my word to you. One thing I have learned about Jocelyn is that she loved animals so much. She loved nature. Across Galveston Bay, from where Jocelyn lived in Houston, you will find a magnificent national wildlife refuge, a pristine, peaceful, 34,000-acre sanctuary for all of God's creatures on the edge of the Gulf of America. Alexis, moments ago, I formally renamed that refuge in loving memory of your beautiful daughter, Jocelyn. So, Mr. Vice President, if you would, may I have the order? Thank you very much. All three savages charged with Jocelyn and Lakin's murders were members of the Venezuelan prison gang, the toughest gang, they say, in the world, known as Tren de Aragua. 2 weeks ago, I officially designated this gang, along with MS-13 and the bloodthirsty Mexican drug cartels, as foreign terrorist organizations. They are now officially in the same category as ISIS, and that's not good for them. Countless thousands of these terrorists were welcomed into the U.S. by the Biden administration. But now every last one will be rounded up and forcibly removed from our country, or, if they're too dangerous, put in jails, standing trial in this country, because we don't want them to come back ever. With us this evening is a warrior on the front lines of that battle, Border Patrol Agent Roberto Ortiz. Great guy. In January, Roberto and another agent were patrolling by the Rio Grande near an area known as Cartel Island. Doesn't sound too nice to me. When heavily armed gunmen started shooting at them, Roberto saw that his partner was totally exposed, at great danger, and he leapt into action, returning fire and providing crucial seconds for his fellow agent to seek safety, just barely. I have some of the prints of that event, and it was not good. Agent Ortiz, we salute you for your great courage and for your line of fire that you took and for the bravery that you showed. We honor you, and we will always honor you. Thank you, Roberto, very much. Thank you, Roberto. And I actually got to know him on my many calls to the border. He's a great gentleman. The territory to the immediate south of our border is now dominated entirely by criminal cartels that murder, rape, torture, and exercise total control. They have total control over a whole nation. posing a grave threat to our national security. The cartels are waging war in America, and it's time for America to wage war on the cartels, which we are doing. Five nights ago, Mexican authorities, because of our tariff policies being imposed on them, think of this, handed over to us 29 of the biggest cartel leaders in their country. That has never happened before. They want to make us happy. First time ever. But we need Mexico and Canada to do much more than they've done, and they have to stop the fentanyl and drugs pouring into the USA. They're going to stop it. I have sent Congress a detailed funding request laying out exactly how we will eliminate these threats to protect our homeland and complete the largest deportation operation in American history, larger even than current record holder President Dwight D. Eisenhower, a moderate man, but someone who believed very strongly in borders. Americans expect Congress to send me this funding without delay so I can sign it into law. So, Mr. Speaker, John Thune, both of you, I hope you're going to be able to do that, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Mr. Leader, thank you. Thank you very much. And let's get it to me. I'll sign it so fast, you won't even believe it. And as we reclaim our sovereignty, we must also bring back law and order to our cities and towns. In recent years, our justice system has been turned upside down by radical left lunatics. Many jurisdictions virtually ceased enforcing the law against dangerous repeat offenders while weaponizing law enforcement against political opponents like me. My administration has acted swiftly and decisively to restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law, starting at the FBI and the DOJ. Pam, good luck. Cash, wherever you may be, good luck. Good luck. Pam Bondi. Good luck. So important. Going to do a great job. Cash, thank you. Thank you, Cash. They've already started very strong. They're going to do a fantastic job. You're going to be very proud of them. We're also once again giving our police officers the support, protection, and respect they so dearly deserve. They have to get it. They have such a hard, dangerous job, but we're going to make it less dangerous. The problem is the bad guys don't respect the law, but they're starting to respect it, and they soon will respect it. This also includes our great fire departments throughout the country. Our firemen and women are unbelievable people, and we'll never forget them. And besides that, they voted for me in record numbers, so I have no choice. 1 year ago this month, 31-year-old New York police officer Jonathan Diller, unbelievably wonderful person and a great officer, was gunned down at a traffic stop on Long Island. I went to his funeral. The vicious criminal charged with his murder had 21 prior arrests, and they were rough arrests, too. He was a real bad one. The thug in the seat next to him had 14 prior arrests and went by the name of Killer. He was Killer. He killed other people, they say, a lot of them. I attended Officer Diller's service, and when I met his wife and one-year-old son, Ryan, it was very inspirational, actually. His widow's name is Stephanie, and she is here tonight. Stephanie, thank you very much, Stephanie. Thank you very much. Stephanie, we're going to make sure that Ryan knows his dad was a true hero, New York's finest. And we're going to get these cold-blooded killers and repeat offenders off our streets, and we're going to do it fast. Got to stop it. They get out with 28 arrests. They push people into subway trains. They hit people over the head, back of the head with baseball bats. We got to get them out of here. I've already signed an executive order requiring a mandatory death penalty for anyone who murders a police officer. And tonight I'm asking Congress to pass that policy into permanent law. I'm also asking for a new crime bill getting tough on repeat offenders while enhancing protections for America's police officers so they can do their jobs without fear of their lives being totally destroyed. They don't want to be killed. We're not going to let them be killed. Joining us in the gallery tonight is a young man who truly loves our police. His name is DJ Daniel. He is 13 years old, and he has always dreamed of becoming a police officer. But in 2018, DJ was diagnosed with brain cancer. The doctors gave him 5 months at most to live. That was more than 6 years ago. Since that time, DJ and his dad have been on a quest to make his dream come true, and DJ has been sworn in as an honorary law enforcement officer, actually a number of times. The police love him, the police departments love him. And tonight, DJ, we're going to do you the biggest honor of them all. I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service. Thank you, DJ. DJ's doctors believe his cancer likely came from a chemical he was exposed to when he was younger. Since 1975, rates of child cancer have increased by more than 40%. Reversing this trend is one of the top priorities for our new presidential commission to make America healthy again, chaired by our new Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. With the name Kennedy, you would have thought everybody over here would have been cheering. How quickly they forget. Our goal is to get toxins out of our environment, poisons out of our food supply, and keep our children healthy and strong. As an example, not long ago, and you can't even believe these numbers, 1 in 10,000 children had autism, 1 in 10,000, and now it's 1 in 36. There's something wrong, 1 in 36. Think of that. So we're going to find out what it is, and there's nobody better than Bobby and all of the people that are working with you. You have the best to figure out what is going on. Okay, Bobby, good luck. It's a very important job. Thank you. Thank you. My administration is also working to protect our children from toxic ideologies in our schools. A few years ago, January Littlejohn and her husband discovered that their daughter's school had secretly socially transitioned their 13-year-old little girl. Teachers and administrators conspired to deceive January and her husband while encouraging her daughter to use a new name and pronouns. They, them pronoun, actually, all without telling January, who is here tonight and is now a courageous advocate against this form of child abuse. January, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Stories like this are why, shortly after taking office, I signed an executive order banning public schools from indoctrinating our children with transgender ideology. I also signed an order to cut off all taxpayer funding to any institution that engages in the sexual mutilation of our youth. And now I want Congress to pass a bill permanently banning and criminalizing sex changes on children and forever ending the lie that any child is trapped in the wrong body. This is a big lie. And our message to every child in America is that you are perfect exactly the way God made you. Because we're getting wokeness out of our schools and out of our military, and it's already out, and it's out of our society. We don't want it. Wokeness is trouble. Wokeness is bad. It's gone. It's gone. And we feel so much better for it, don't we? Don't we feel better? Our service members won't be activists and ideologues. They will be fighters and warriors. They will fight for our country. And Pete, congratulations. Secretary of Defense, congratulations. And he's not big into the woke movement, I can tell you. I know him well. I am pleased to report that in January, the U.S. Army had its single best recruiting month in 15 years, and that all armed services are having among the best recruiting results ever in the history of our services. What a difference. And you know, it was just a few months ago where the results were exactly the opposite. We couldn't recruit anywhere. We couldn't recruit. Now we're having the best results just about that we've ever had. What a tremendous turnaround. It's really a beautiful thing to see. People love our country again. It's very simple. They love our country, and they love being in our military again. So it's a great thing, and thank you very much. Great job. Thank you. We're joined tonight by a young man, Jason Hartley, who knows the weight of that call of duty. Jason's father, grandfather, and great-grandfather all wore the uniform. Jason tragically lost his dad, who was also a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy when he was just a boy, and now he wants to carry on the family legacy of service. Jason is a senior in high school, a six-letter varsity athlete, a really good athlete, they say, a brilliant student with a 4.46, that's good, GPA. And his greatest dream is to attend the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. And Jason, that's a very big deal getting in. That's a hard one to get into. But I'm pleased to inform you that your application has been accepted. You will soon be joining the Corps of Cadets. Thank you. Jason, you're going to be on the long gray line, Jason. As Commander-in-Chief, my focus is on building the most powerful military of the future. As a first step, I'm asking Congress to fund a state-of-the-art Golden Dome missile defense shield to protect our homeland, all made in the USA. And Ronald Reagan wanted to do it long ago, but the technology just wasn't there, not even close. But now we have the technology. It's incredible, actually. And other places, they have it. Israel has it. Other places have it. And the United States should have it too, right, Tim, right? They should have it too. So I want to thank you. But it's a very, very important. This is a very dangerous world. We should have it. We want to be protected, and we're going to protect our citizens like never before. To boost our defense industrial base, we are also going to resurrect the American shipbuilding industry, including commercial shipbuilding and military shipbuilding. And for that purpose, I am announcing tonight that we will create a new Office of Shipbuilding in the White House and offer special tax incentives to bring this industry home to America where it belongs. We used to make so many ships. We don't make them anymore very much, but we're going to make them very fast, very soon. It will have a huge impact. To further enhance our national security, my administration will be reclaiming the Panama Canal, and we've already started doing it. Just today, a large American company announced they are buying both ports around the Panama Canal and lots of other things having to do with the Panama Canal and a couple of other canals. The Panama Canal was built by Americans for Americans, not for others, but others could use it. But it was built at tremendous cost of American blood and treasure. 38,000 workers died building the Panama Canal. They died of malaria. They died of snake bites and mosquitoes. Not a nice place to work. They paid them very highly to go there, knowing there was a 25% chance that they would die. The most expensive project also that was ever built in our country's history, if you bring it up to modern day costs. It was given away by the Carter administration for $1, but that agreement has been violated very severely. We didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back. And we have Marco Rubio in charge. Good luck, Marco. Now, we know who to blame if anything goes wrong. Marco's been amazing, and he's going to do a great job. Think of it. He got 100 votes. You know, he was approved with actually 99, but the 100th was this gentleman, and I feel very certain. So let's assume he got 100 votes. And I'm either very, very happy about that or I'm very concerned about it. But he's already proven. I mean, he's a great gentleman. He's respected by everybody, and we appreciate you voting for Marco. He's going to do a fantastic job. Thank you. Thank you. He's doing a great job. Great job. And I also have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. We strongly support your right to determine your own future. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America. We need Greenland for national security and even international security. And we're working with everybody involved to try and get it. But we need it really for international world security. And I think we're going to get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it. We will keep you safe. We will make you rich, and together we will take Greenland to heights like you have never thought possible before. It's a very small population, but very, very large piece of land and very, very important for military security. America is once again standing strong against the forces of radical Islamic terrorism. 3.5 years ago, ISIS terrorists killed 13 American service members and countless others in the Abbey Gate bombing during the disastrous and incompetent withdrawal from Afghanistan. Not that they were withdrawing, it was the way they withdrew. Perhaps the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. Tonight, I am pleased to announce that we have just apprehended the top terrorist responsible for that atrocity, and he is right now on his way here to face the swift sword of American justice. And I want to thank especially the government of Pakistan for helping arrest this monster. This was a very momentous day for those 13 families who I actually got to know very well, most of them, whose children were murdered, and the many people that were so badly, over 42 people, so badly injured on that fateful day in Afghanistan. What a horrible day. Such incompetence was shown that when Putin saw what happened, I guess he said, wow, maybe this is my chance. That's how bad it was. Should have never happened. Grossly incompetent people. I spoke to many of the parents and loved ones, and they're all in our hearts tonight. Just spoke to them on the phone. We had a big call. Every one of them called, and everybody was on the line, and they did nothing but cry with happiness. They were very happy, as happy as you can be under those circumstances. Their child, brother, sister, son, daughter was killed for no reason whatsoever. In the Middle East, we're bringing back our hostages from Gaza. In my first term, we achieved one of the most groundbreaking peace agreements in generations, the Abraham Accords. And now we're going to build on that foundation to create a more peaceful and prosperous future for the entire region. A lot of things are happening in the Middle East. People have been talking about that so much lately with everything going on with Ukraine and Russia. But a lot of things are happening in the Middle East. It's a rough neighborhood, actually. I'm also working tirelessly to end the savage conflict in Ukraine. Millions of Ukrainians and Russians have been needlessly killed or wounded in this horrific and brutal conflict with no end in sight. The United States has sent hundreds of billions of dollars to support Ukraine's defense with no security, with no anything. Do you want to keep it going for another 5 years? Yeah, you would say Pocahontas says yes. 2,000 people are being killed every single week. More than that. They're Russian young people. They're Ukrainian young people. They're not Americans, but I want it to stop. Meanwhile, Europe has sadly spent more money buying Russian oil and gas than they have spent on defending Ukraine, by far. Think of that. They've spent more buying Russian oil and gas than they have defending. And we've spent perhaps $350 billion, like taking candy from a baby. That's what happened. And they've spent $100 billion. What a difference that is. And we have an ocean separating us, and they don't. But we're getting along very well with them, and lots of good things are happening. Biden has authorized more money in this fight than Europe has spent by billions and billions of dollars. It's hard to believe that they wouldn't have stopped it and said at some point, come on, let's equalize. You got to be equal to us. But that didn't happen. Earlier today, I received an important letter from President Zelensky of Ukraine. The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. Nobody wants peace more than the Ukrainians, he said. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. We do really value how much America has done to help Ukraine maintain its sovereignty and independence. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time that is convenient for you. I appreciate that he sent this letter, just got it a little while ago. Simultaneously, we've had serious discussions with Russia and have received strong signals that they are ready for peace. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Wouldn't that be beautiful? Wouldn't that be beautiful? It's time to stop this madness. It's time to halt the killing. It's time to end this senseless war. If you want to end wars, you have to talk to both sides. Nearly 4 years ago, amid rising tensions, a history teacher named Mark Fogel was detained in Russia and sentenced to 14 years in a penal colony. Rough stuff. The previous administration barely lifted a finger to help him. They knew he was innocent, but they had no idea where to begin. But last summer, I promised his 95-year-old mother, Malphine, that we would bring her boy safely back home. After 22 days in office, I did just that, and they are here tonight. To Mark and his great mom, we are delighted to have you safe and sound and with us. As fate would have it, Mark Fogel was born in a small rural town in Butler, Pennsylvania. Have you heard of it? where his mother has lived for the past 78 years. I just happened to go there last July 13th for a rally. That was not pleasant. And that is where I met his beautiful mom right before I walked onto that stage. And I told her I would not forget what she said about her son. And I never did I? Never forgot. Less than 10 minutes later, at that same rally, gunfire rang out, and a sick and deranged assassin unloaded 8 bullets from his sniper's perch into a crowd of many thousands of people. My life was saved by a fraction of an inch, but some were not so lucky. Corey Comparator was a firefighter, a veteran, a Christian, a husband, a devoted father, and above all, a protector. When the sound of gunshots pierced the air, it was a horrible sound. Corey knew instantly what it was and what to do. He threw himself on top of his wife and daughters and shielded them from the bullets with his own body. Corey was hit really hard. You know the story from there. He sacrificed his life to save theirs. 2 others, very fine people, were also seriously hit. But thankfully, with the help of 2 great country doctors, we thought they were gone and they were saved. So those doctors had great talent. We're joined by Corey's wife, Helen, who was his high school sweetheart, and their 2 beloved daughters, Allison and Kaylee. Thank you. To Helen, Allison, and Kaylee, Corey is looking down on his 3 beautiful ladies right now, and he is cheering you on. He loves you. He is cheering you on. Corey was taken from us much too soon, but his destiny was to leave us all with a shining example of the selfless devotion of a true American patriot. It was love like Corey's that built our country, and it's love like Corey's that is going to make our country more majestic than ever before. I believe that my life was saved that day in Butler for a very good reason. I was saved by God to make America great again. I believe that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. From the patriots of Lexington and Concord to the heroes of Gettysburg and Normandy, from the warriors who crossed the Delaware to the trailblazers who climbed the Rockies, and from the legends who soared at Kitty Hawk to the astronauts who touched the moon, Americans have always been the people who defied all odds, transcended all dangers, made the most extraordinary sacrifices, and did whatever it took to defend our children, our country, and our freedom. And as we have seen in this chamber tonight, that same strength, faith, love, and spirit is still alive and thriving in the hearts of the American people. Despite the best efforts of those who would try to censor us, silence us, break us, destroy us, Americans are today a proud, free, sovereign, and independent nation that will always be free, and we will fight for it till death. We will never let anything happen to our beloved country, because we are a country of doers, dreamers, fighters, and survivors. Our ancestors crossed a vast ocean, strode into the unknown wilderness, and carved their fortunes from the rock and soil of a perilous and very dangerous frontier. They chased our destiny across a boundless continent. They built the railroads, laid the highways, and graced the world with American marvels like the Empire State Building, the mighty Hoover Dam, and the towering Golden Gate Bridge. They lit the world with electricity, broke free of the force of gravity, fired up the engines of American industry, vanquished the communists, fascists, and Marxists all over the world, and gave us countless modern wonders sculptured out of iron, glass, and steel. We stand on the shoulders of these pioneers who won and built the modern age. These workers who poured their sweat into the skylines of our cities. These warriors who shed their blood on fields of battle and gave everything they had for our rights and for our freedom. Now it is our time to take up the righteous cause of American liberty. And it is our turn to take America's destiny into our own hands and begin the most thrilling days in the history of our country. This will be our greatest era. With God's help, over the next 4 years, we are going to lead this nation even higher, and we are going to forge the freest, most advanced, most dynamic, and most dominant civilization ever to exist on the face of this earth. We are going to create the highest quality of life, build the safest and wealthiest and healthiest and most vital communities anywhere in the world. We are going to conquer the vast frontiers of science, and we are going to lead humanity into space and plant the American flag on the planet Mars and even far beyond. And through it all, we are going to rediscover the unstoppable power of the American spirit. And we are going to renew unlimited promise of the American dream. Every single day, we will stand up and we will fight, fight, fight for the country our citizens believe in and for the country our people deserve. My fellow Americans, get ready for an incredible future, because the golden age of America has only just begun. It will be like nothing that has ever been seen before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Great job. Thank you. Great honor. Thank you very much. Thank you. Get this place going, all right? Thank you. It's a great honor. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. I see you soon. Teaching young people the world. Well, I'm trying to. Great guy. Thank you. That's your family. Thanks. very much. Appreciate it. Howard, thank you again. Thank you again. Won't forget.
So good. That's good. So good, sir.
Thank you.
Best. Terrific, Mr. Really good. It's really about outstanding.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right.
Good job, Mr. President. Thanks.
Well, you're still here. I'm glad. All right, well, folks, we're back, and we just heard President Trump addressing Congress, and there's a lot to unpack, to say the least. He's a modest guy. It's hard to get him to come out and talk about what he's done. Joining me is a man who's never been afraid to speak his mind. Cenk, we'll get him talking here. If you're just joining us tonight, this is Cenk Uygur. He is the co-founder and host of the Young Turks. And if you haven't become aware of the Young Turks, it's the longest running show ever, I guess, on the internet. And you can find it on YouTube, and there'll be links on drphil.com and Merit TV. And I highly recommend you put it on your watch list. And he didn't ask me to say any of this. I'm just saying it because it's true. He's smart. He does his homework. He's got a great partner in Anna, and they have some good conversations and great guests, as you'll see tonight when we start talking here. So let's just dive right in. What's your reaction to what you just heard?
Well, I like the fourth hour best.
Yeah, I thought so. Just flew by, didn't it?
Yeah. So, look, so the parts about crime resonated pretty well, I think, with a lot of folks. And when he does the theatrics, it's good stuff, right? It works stylistically. And I wish the Democrats would pick up some of the things that he does. So when he signed the bill right there in the middle of the State of the Union, some Democrats would frown upon that. Oh, that's not the time and place. No, it is the time and place, right? And so when they made the little 13-year-old boy with the cancer, Secret Service agent in the middle of the ceremony, that's beautiful, really well done, right? Now, I hate to be a downer, okay, but with politicians, you always have to check them, right? And so, you know, when you get into the facts, did someone really win a race by 5 hours? No, it was 5 minutes, not 5 hours, right? It's classic. Are there really people at 300 years old getting Social Security checks? No.
But he didn't actually say that. He said they're on the rolls.
They're on the rolls, but they're not getting anything. So it's misleading to say the least. Look, guys, I really, there was powerful moments where I thought some Democrats should have stood up, especially for the 13-year-old boy. I mean, he's so inspirational, right? I noticed him getting up at the end for the family that had been shot in Butler, Pennsylvania. It said, so good, but we need a little bit more of that. But having said that, so that boy has cancer, and they cut cancer research by billions. They did. The judge made them reinstate it for now, okay? But they did cut it, and they cut treatment of lead poisoning and lead in the water. And that leads to a lot of sicknesses, et cetera. So while we celebrate things that are good and right, we also have to hold them to account. And that's true of both sets of politicians and both sets of parties. So that was my take. What did you think, Dr. Phillips?
Well, I thought the disruption at the beginning was stupid.
Yeah.
The guy just standing up and yelling, and it's just stupid. You don't gain anything by that. I think it's low class. I think the Democrats not standing up at certain times, when you can't stand up and celebrate a young man overcoming brain cancer, you can't stand up for law enforcement and firefighters, which most of them did not. A few of them did. I think that's poor. I think that's poor planning on their part. They know they're going to be in a situation like that, so they should decide ahead of time. Look, there are going to be some things that are important, and we need to show some class and stand up for that. That's why they're losing the people. That's why they're losing the people. It's stupid. It doesn't come across well. And is he the master of the superlative? And of course, but he doesn't have a corner on that. He just has mastered it. And I'll talk about some of the substance of what he said in a minute. Our political director, Lindsay Keith, joins us now from D.C. Live from Emancipation Hall. Lindsay, thanks for joining us, and tell us what your thoughts were about tonight's presentation.
It's good to see you, Dr. Phil, and your whole crowd that you have there. Excited to hear their response to this. But really, you're seeing President Trump, who feels emboldened, being the first Republican in decades to win the popular vote from the American people on November 5th. And you heard him there talking about really all the executive actions and orders he's put in place, and saying that this is just the beginning. And they've only been in the Oval Office for 43 days. But really, one of the fascinating points here is this bipartisanship that we're seeing across the board. You look at the president's approval rating right now, his average is sitting around 48, 49%. And so America is split down the middle on how they feel about this president and this division. And you saw that in the chamber this evening. And as you were just mentioning there, some of these moments that really should have had an applause across the board because it's what the American people voted for. You think of immigration was a key issue that the president won on. And you look at some of this polling that has come out showing that the vast majority, 60 to 87% of American percent of the people say that they want mass deportations of illegal immigrants. Yet you have a part of the chamber Democrats not standing at all for some of those moments. And then, of course, as you were talking there, this little 13-year-old boy, DJ, who's a cancer survivor, those should be moments that are rallied around. And this is one of the challenges that you're having from Democrats right now. They're still trying to find their unified response of how to respond to this president. And, we saw that during the election cycle, he was able to meet the American people where they're at, talking about some of these initiatives that they care about. Trans women or trans athletes in women's sports. This is something that people have been afraid to talk about, yet this is what people are talking about in their homes. Immigration issues, talking about Laken Riley. We saw that there wasn't a standing ovation from that. But one of the things I do think that was amiss from the president is really talking more about what this administration is going to do about the price of goods, everyday goods. And this comes on the backdrop of him putting a 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada. And we know so much agriculture comes from Mexico. We have many grocery chains saying that prices are going to go up within days if these tariffs stay in place. And that is something that you see polling in the American people saying, the president is not speaking enough on this. He is not talking about how he is going to change that dynamic swiftly for us. We would love to hear more decisive action on that, like we're seeing decisive action on so many other things. And we saw him point the blame at the previous administration for that, opposed to saying, now this is on my watch. I'm going to change the paradigm here. We really didn't hear that from the president tonight.
Yeah, I was looking for something to be stronger in terms of actions to be taken. And I think we'll see that, but I think it should have been talking. It's like the campaign is over. Okay, we got it. The campaign is over. The race is over. So let's talk about action now. And I think that's really important. And I don't think we heard enough of that tonight. It was like this was more of a campaign rally than a State of the Union. And I know it wasn't actually a State of the Union. We're 45 days in. And he's talking about that, but I felt like people wanted to hear some of that. But look, one of the things I felt strongly about was there are things that are bipartisan. There are things that we should rally around. Cenk said it earlier. Let's talk about what we can agree on, right? And there were a lot of things there that people could agree on, but they didn't. It was like, I don't want to give you one single thing. And look, I'm very apolitical. People think that I'm a Republican or for Trump or whatever. I'm about the culture. That's what I'm concerned about. And I stood on this stage and I've been on that camera. And when Biden was president, I said, he is my president. He is the President of the United States of America, and I am a citizen of the United States of America, so he's my president. And if Kamala Harris had been elected president, she would have been my president. You honor the office of the president, not the person in it. And to see those people sit there and cross their arms and stick their nose up like something smells bad, you know, what bothers me is how that looks to the rest of the world. I mean, you're in the Capitol, and the President of the United States is standing there. Respect the office of the president. And you know, I requested several times to interview President Biden, and it was turned down. I requested several times to interview Kamala Harris. It was turned down. And people that know me know, and people in the Democratic Party know, I would never disrespect someone that sits in the office of the president. I would not cross-examine them in a disrespectful way. Would I ask hard questions? Yes, I would ask questions that were respectful but substantive. I think you respect the office. You don't have to agree with everything the person says or does. And I thought it was bad form tonight to go into that hall and not respect the office of the president. What do you think that's bad form?
So I do. So, for example, Al Green in the beginning, it's like there was no point to that. Nobody could even hear what you're saying. It makes our side look bad. There's just no point to it. It's counterproductive, right? Now, at the same time, the president also has a responsibility to reach out to the other side. So, for example, almost everything he did was red meat, right? I'm the greatest. I'm better than George Washington. And not only that, he'd go and point to the Democrats, and they won't stand up, and they won't do this, and they won't do that. But, you know, we've talked about things that bring us together. So earlier we talked about negotiating drug prices, right? That brings us all together, has a popularity around near 90%. Now, if he talked about that, then the Democrats, if they didn't stand up, then I would have said you lose your mind, right? But they would have stood up at that point, right?
I don't know.
Well, look, here's the thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
They didn't stand for a 6-year-old boy that had overcome cancer with 5 months.
Yeah.
So 13, he'd lived 6 years,
but Dr.
instead
Phil,
of 5 months.
So I hear you. Look, we don't know because he didn't do it. He didn't reach out to the other side.
Well, then don't say he would have.
Right.
They would have.
Right. So, but it's got to go both ways. They don't stand, but he doesn't reach out. And this is the impasse that we're in. So that's why both sides are always at loggerheads. Nobody's reaching out to the other side. So look, here's another one. The Taiwanese company that's coming to build semiconductors here, $100 billion, he takes all the credit for it. In reality, they got $6.6 billion in subsidies from Biden's CHIPS Act. They got a 25% tax credit from Biden's CHIPS Act. Now, here's the thing. If he says, hey, Biden did that, but, you know, I helped to bring them over right now by doing the tariffs, et cetera. Okay, then you've united us a little bit. You give Biden a little bit of credit. You give yourself a little bit of credit. But with Trump, it's always me, right? And so that's why I see what you're saying. I really do. But I'm asking you to see what I'm saying too, that it's going both ways.
No. No, I do hear what you're saying, and listen, Trump is going to blow his own horn more than anybody that's ever been in that office. I totally agree with that. But at the same time, you've got this event, you've got the entire representation of the Democrats there. Not one person stood up for most of the things that he said. I think a few people stood up for law enforcement. A few people stood up for the firefighters, but other than that, nothing. So I don't know. It seemed to me that that's bad form, but that happened. It's over. It's done. But I hope that there's some feedback that people say to Trump, you don't have to go in there and antagonize that side on purpose. And clearly he was antagonizing them and jabbing them the whole time. And somebody needs to talk to that side and say, come on, show some grace. and stand up for the office of the President of the United States. It's a bad look for the world, and we need to have a better look for the world. That's all I'm saying. I mean, do y'all agree with that? We need to have a better look for the world from both sides. Be a gracious winner as president, and be a gracious loser if you're in the minority there. So that's all I'm saying. Both sides need to do a better job of that. You agree with that, right?
Oh, yeah. And look, I'll give the Republicans one more thing, which is they're chanting fight, fight, fight. And what the Democrats don't understand, Democrats are always about civility and whispering on NPR, right? And I love you guys, but every once in a while, you got to speak up. Right. And every once in a while, you got to fight, fight, fight. You got to fight for your side. You got to fight for the voters. You got to fight for folks. And the Republicans have a lot of fight in them. So I get that, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. I just hope somebody does a debrief to everybody there, to the president and that side, and the Democrats and that side. I hope they do I hope they do a debrief on that and say, this is how this plays to the public, and this will be watched. And if you think both sides needed to show more grace, raise your hand real high so everybody can see it. Both sides needed to show more grace. And I think if they would, it would play better internally within the United States. It would play better internationally as well. And if you look at the polls right now, and tell me if you guys agree with them, number one issue is affordability. People want to have affordability. They want to be able to know that they can afford to pay for their kids' lunches and clothes and heat and gas and all of that. And number two is security. They want to know that, hey, we're safe. And that includes the borders and violent, illegal aliens. And do we know if that's a really big issue or not? I don't know that we really know how big an issue that is, but safety is a big issue. And I think those things could have and should have been talked about more. Affordability, is that a big deal to y'all? Is it something that you're concerned about and all? I think it is. And everybody that I talk to, every poll that I see, and they talk about inflation, but what people are more concerned about is affordability, and they're concerned about safety and these violent criminals on the street. And joining us now, straight from the president's address to Congress, is Tom Homan, President Trump's border czar. Tom, thank you for joining us. It's good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me, Doc. We appreciate it.
I'm really glad that you're here talking to us, and I'm glad that you were there in the room. How do you think President Trump's speech played to the room overall? We know that it was very divided. How did it feel in the room?
It felt, more divided than it should have been. Look, you can disagree with the president's policy. You don't have to agree with everything he did, but he's the president of the United States. And I think everybody needs to show more decorum in that room. I mean, these are elected representatives. I was kind of disappointed. Mostly on the left. I had some disappointments on the right too. But, to stand up and shout and call the president a liar, and some of the things I saw was just so unprofessional. It's hard to believe these are elected representatives. They're supposed to be our finest. But the president's speech I thought was great. I think he spent a lot of time on the border issues and the victimization, the victims of border crime, and everybody in the room should stand. And I didn't see the left standing up, but when you bury a child because your child was raped and murdered by an illegal alien, stand and honor that young lady, stand and honor that family, and let them know that your heart's with them. This shouldn't be a partisan issue. It shouldn't be a political issue. Everybody should be standing. So I was just a little disappointed half the room stood for that, because I met these families. They buried their children. You want to talk about, my worst nightmare is to bury one of my children. And I just saw that at any point in that speech, that should have been a point of unification.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, and the group here has agreed with that. We've been talking about immigration, and let me ask you, and I'll let Cenk ask you questions as well, but Tom, first off, do you feel like you have the border under control at this point, you and your team, your ICE team and the border guards there? Do you feel like you have the border under control at this point?
We're not done, but we got the border more secure than it ever has been in my lifetime. The reason I say that because border crossings are down 97%. Under Trump 45, we're down 91 to 92. And right now we're 97% down. And what people need to understand, it's just not the 97% down. We're 90%, 97% less people are coming. How many women aren't being raped by the cartels? How many children aren't drowning in that river? How many women and children aren't being sex trafficked into the country? How many known suspected terrorists aren't sneaking in because the Border Patrol is 100% vigilant on the line to secure a border? We're at 97% down. We need to get that other 3%. But the most important number I can talk about is the gotaways. Under Joe Biden, there was days where we dealt with 1,800 gotaways. You know, that was the average, 1,800 average gotaways, known gotaways. A couple of days ago, I looked at the gotaways, 41. 41 across 2,000 miles of border. That's almost a perfect border security situation. I'll be happy with 0, but I've never seen it 41 in my career.
Okay, now let me ask you this. When, in terms of what's happening now inside this country, your attitude is to get the worst first. I want to be clear. Are you sweeping through neighborhoods, just picking up anybody that is dark complected, or are you targeting known criminals, known terrorists, people that are on a list where you have a folder and a file that you know who you're going after, and you know that they are convicted criminals, you know that they have a rap sheet?
No, these are, you use the right term, this is a targeted enforcement operation. Every time we send a team out throughout the country, they know exactly who they're looking for. They have a pretty good idea where they might find them, and they got a target folder, a target worksheet. It has his name, his identification, his fingerprints, has his criminal history there. And you're exactly right. The president has promised we're going to prioritize public safety threats and national security threats. Are others arrested during the operation? Yeah, there's collateral arrest. Why is that? Because we're not allowed in these sanctuary jails where we can arrest, one agent can arrest one bad guy. So when they release that public safety threat back into public, it puts the public at great risk, puts the officer at great risk, and puts the alien at great risk. But when we find that person, and we will find them, many times we're with others. And if they're in the country legally, they got to come too. So that's the problem with sanctuary cities. We're going to give them exactly what they don't want. More agents in the neighborhoods and more collateral arrest. So help us make 100% criminal arrest. Help us, get us in the jail. Let us talk to the guy that you locked in a jail cell. That would raise that percentage. Like, I think we're at about 86% criminals being arrested. You want that number to be higher? You want it to be 100%? Let us in the jails, and we can take the worst of the worst out of this country first.
You've told me there were 3 prongs: secure the border, arrest the dangerous criminals that are already in this country, and third, find the missing children, the hundreds of thousands of children that have come across that border and just disappeared into the country, many of whom we know are being trafficked. Those are your 3 most important things. Why? And you've said some things that I don't think people think about. These people that get trafficked into or come across the border illegally, they're coming through the cartels, and they're being horribly abused by those cartels. And I know that's something that really bothers you, what these people have to go through to get into this country under the abuse of those cartels. And then these children that get lost in America. How important is it to you to help to rescue those children and get them back to their families?
And look, it's very important. President Trump, as you say, gave me 3 goals. Shut down the border. We got at 97% decline. We're almost there, so we're doing a great job there. Interior enforcement operations, we've arrested 3 times as many people as Joe Biden did. So we're breaking records there, but I'm not happy yet. I'm not going to be happy till every criminal alien, every criminal public safety threat, every criminal national security threat is eradicated from this country, especially TDA and MS-13. Until they're all gone, I'm not going to be happy. We won't keep pushing for more and more and more. But when it comes to the children, that tugs at my heartstring. I hope this tugs at the heartstrings of every American. You're right. 500,000 children were smuggled in this country. My administration released them unvetted sponsors. They can't find 300,000 of them, well, approximately 300,000. We are now just wrapping our hands around the data of these so-called sponsors and try to locate, because look, children don't have a footprint. You and I have a footprint. We own homes, we own cars, we have credit cards. We can find us, but we can't find children who don't have that digital footprint. So we got to count on information of the sponsors. We're just now getting the information on that, and we're finding out a lot of the sponsors' information is inadequate. They weren't fingerprinted. Their identification wasn't validated. Not all of them, but many of them. So this is going to be a difficult job to do, but it's the most important job, because based on my 38 years doing this, many of these children are in sex trafficking right now. They're being sold in sex trafficking. Many of these children are in forced labor. Some of these children are perfectly safe. They're with family members. But we got to rescue the children at risk. They're living a life of hell every day, and we got to rescue them. Let the immigration consequence, we'll deal with that later. We need to save these children. And that's why I count on you, Dr. Phil. I count on your audience and every American citizen in this country. We're going to deputize these parents. Parents have this innate ability to recognize whether something's not right with a child. Whether you see a young child at workplace that shouldn't be there, or whether you see a child with a situation that you know as a parent, something isn't right with that child and that adult. Call the ICE tip line. Let us know what you're seeing, where it's at. If one lead out of 1,000 saves a child, it's well worth it. I need America's help. I need your help, Dr. Phil, and your supporters to help me rescue these children. We're not going to find all of them. That's just the way it is. Some of these children we'll never find because they've been sold off to other foreign nations. But we got to find and save as many children as possible. As you said, I take this personally. I've talked to little girls as young as 9 years old that were raped multiple times by the cartel members and these smugglers and traffickers. And when you get and look in a little 9-year-old little girl's eyes and everything innocent and pure has been torn from her, she don't see life the same as you and I. She never will. She has no faith in humanity. Her life has been destroyed. When you wear my shoes and dealt what I dealt with, you'd understand my passion for this. And I hope your listeners will help me. Help me find these kids. I need your partnership. I need your help.
You bet. Well, Tom, listen, I know you've had a long day, so I won't keep you anymore. Thank you so much for taking time to catch up with us and let us know what's in your heart. And you and I'll be seeing each other real soon.
Well, let me say this, Doctor. I appreciate your partnership. You've been shoulder to shoulder during this whole event. I know you're taking some hits from the left, but you're a brave man. I appreciate you picked a side. You picked the side of children. You picked the side of people that have been victimized by illegal alien criminals. You picked the side of American citizens who've been victimized. God bless you, and God bless you for taking a stand. I honor you. I respect you. I respect you greatly. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon, my friend. Thank you so much. All right. Joining us now is California Democratic Congressman Roy Kahana. What are you thinking after President Trump's address to Congress, sir?
I'm sad. I'm sad for the country. I'm sad that we're as divided. I'm sad that there was no moment where we came together as Americans. I'm sad that this is what it's come to. And, we can talk about who's to blame, but it just was a moment. I've been in this country, born in Philadelphia in 1976, our bicentenary. I'm 48 years old. And I've always been really hopeful about this nation. I've thought that we can do anything in this nation. And today was the first time I thought, what has happened to our country? Why have things gone this wrong? How are we going to come back? How are we going to find some common ground? And that's one of the reasons I wanted to come on tonight, because I know, Dr. Phil, even where we disagree, and with Cenk, that both of you are committed to doing that, and that your audience is committed to doing that. And that, to me, is the highest priority. I know you said border security, and I know you said affordability. You know what the highest priority is? How are we not going to be a house divided in this nation?
Boy, that's true.
Yeah. So, Ro, we just talked about immigration, and Tom Homan was on talking about arresting people who have committed crimes in the country that are undocumented and taking them out. I don't think that the Democrats are against that. You tell me if I'm wrong about that. But we didn't get into mass deportations. So you tell me where the Democratic line is on these immigration issues. Is it on, kicking out the people who are criminals, or is it on mass deportations?
Of course, everyone is for kicking out criminals. Of course, your heart breaks for the children that Tom Homan was talking about who have been kidnapped and smuggled, and no one denies that. But if someone is committing murder, if someone is committing armed robbery, if they're convicted of a crime, of course, Democrats think that they should be deported. The difference is first in language. And, I know President Trump feels he was vindicated, he's won. But when you describe the situation of Springfield, Ohio, and Aurora, Colorado, as an invasion, and you use that kind of language that has real consequences. When Mike DeWine, the governor, Republican governor of Ohio, is saying, that's actually not the case, that most of the people who are immigrants, they're hardworking and paying taxes. When Ronald Reagan has said that immigrants actually enrich America, and then when you come to America from a different country, like my parents did from India, you can be American, and you can't do that in Japan and France and Germany and anywhere else in the world. And when you pull at that, then it's going to create a reaction on those of us who believe that we're a nation of laws and a nation of immigrants to be defensive. And I guess if the president wants to try to find common ground and he says, look, the border wasn't secure, I'm securing the border, we didn't do a good enough job of deporting criminals, I'm going to do that. But I also recognize that there are a lot of immigrants who are hardworking and a lot of immigrants that are contributing. Where was any Ronald Reagan or Abraham Lincoln in the speech? Why does it always have to be just the demonization?
So, Ro, if there's something that you thought he could have reached out on that maybe he even agrees with on the Democratic side, or something that you guys have proposed before, and he didn't do it, is there a topic that you wish he had actually reached out and said, here's where we have agreement, and that could have riled you guys up to actually stand up and applaud because you actually found that agreement?
He could have said that we can't have a nation that has a $1 trillion Pentagon budget with 5 defense contractors. And he actually said that he wants to meet with Russia and China and try to figure out how the nations of the world aren't spending as much on military and war and to bring peace. I mean, why didn't he say something like that? And then what would all the Democrats have been standing, not standing, if he was talking about world peace? Or if he said, I want to be, the president gets drug prices down. No American should pay more for drugs than anywhere else in the world. I mean, there are things that he could have done. My sense, even on Doge, look, I was criticized in my own party when Doge happened. And I said there is wasteful spending. But what my problem was, why didn't Musk come to Congress? Have a rational plan. Why are we firing the veterans first? The third of the people who are being fired, 30%, are veterans. People. I met someone who went to Afghanistan and Iraq and was helping other veterans. You know what, Mr. Musk? I don't care if the person is 50% effective, 60% effective. He put on the uniform. Something I haven't done, something Mr. Musk hasn't done, something the president hasn't done. You know what? If you're in Iraq and Afghanistan, you're going to come back and you're going to work in the federal government and you're working at 70% and don't have the top 5 performance of Mr. Musk, I still think that person is contributing and should have a job. It's crazy, these mass firing of veterans.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you so much for everything you've had to say. I think if you and the president sat down and spent a couple hours a week, there would be a lot more bridge building going on than there is right now. It's just that kind of rationality that we need to hear more of. And I hope I get a chance to talk to you.
I appreciate that. I was the only Democrat yesterday who showed up to First Lady Trump's roundtable. It was a bill called Take It Down.
Yeah.
I had some of my staff say, why are you going? I said, because the bill that the First Lady is for says take down sexually explicit images from the internet. And two of the people she talked about were at that roundtable. And she said, Ro, thank you for coming. We need to put aside looking at every single thing as partisans, start to think with one simple test. We believe it's good for America, bad for America.
Great, so much. Thank you for taking time to talk to us tonight. I know it's been a long and busy day. Joining us now is Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. RFK. Bobby, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Well, you've had a long day, so I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. I know you've traveled across the country today, and this has been a long one. I'll ask you a general question first. How did you feel about President Trump's speech tonight overall, and how did it feel in the room?
I thought the speech was excellent. I thought, one of the things that he's done is really what he's succeeded in doing through leadership and through his authenticity is really reinvigorating our nation. I remember when I was younger and Ronald Reagan was president, and I was very much opposed to Reagan. I didn't like any of his policies, very hard on the environment, which was my big issue then. And my uncle Teddy, who was, head of the American sort of liberal tradition, who did not like Carter a lot, and he loved Reagan. And I couldn't understand why. And he said, because he brings good energy to our country, he makes people proud to be American again. And although Carter agreed with them on most of the issues, he also saw that there was another quality to leadership that was really important for a president. And I see that all around me as I walk around the country. There was really a malaise in this country over the past couple of years. People were hopeless. People on both sides of the aisle felt that the country was not going in a direction that was hopeful. And I think a huge majority of Americans now feel great hope for the future of our country. Some of the things that the president is doing are, I think, incredibly imaginative. The gold card is something that came out of him. And it really, it's the first hope that I've seen that we can, start paying down some of the debt, which is crippling our country, which is an existential crisis. We're now paying more just to service the debt, just for the interest on that debt, than we're paying than our military budget. And then, of course, I was very happy for the shout out that he gave to make America healthy again. That is another existential crisis. When my uncle was president, 3% of Americans had chronic disease, and today 60% do. And when I was a boy, our typical pediatrician would see one case of juvenile diabetes in his lifetime. Today, 38% of our teenagers are diabetic or pre-diabetic, and we're spending more on diabetes and mitochondrial disorders than we're spending on our military. So these are existential crises. 77% of American kids cannot qualify for military service. Testosterone in our kids has dropped by 50%. A 68-year-old man today, American, has more testosterone than a teenager. And this is not the way the world is supposed to work. And I think that President Trump, for the first time, has given our country a hope that we have another way out.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more about that. And let me ask you, I've got two questions that I think are really important and that this group here wants to hear about. Are we going to get to a point where we're able to negotiate and get down drug prices so we don't have corporate capture from big pharma?
Well, I think those are two different questions, Phil, because the corporate capture is from pharma purchasing Congress and controlling the regulatory agencies. And it does that through a number of mechanisms. One is it does have a tremendous amount of money. There's now 2 to 3 lobbyists on Capitol Hill for every congressman and senator. And the amount of money that's being poured into pharmaceutical ads has given the pharmaceutical company control over the mainstream media. If you're Anderson Cooper and your network, your show is getting 75% of its budget from pharmaceutical advertisers, you are very, very conscious of making sure to please your advertisers in the way that you report the news. So it's given them not only a platform for selling drugs, but also for controlling content, which means the people who go up against them politically get punished and get silenced. And that is not a good outcome. The drug pricing issue is a very different issue. And drug pricing, we have to get control of a pharmaceutical company. There are things being done by the administration right now to lower drug pricing. We're negotiating over 15 of the most common drugs, including the GLP drugs. People are, we're paying $1,200 for GLPs, for these weight loss drugs in our country. And in England, they pay $88. The president has instructed me to narrow that gap between European pricing and what we pay here. We pay 70% of pharmaceutical revenues come from the United States of America. We only have 4.2% of the world's population. And we're essentially subsidizing drugs to the rest of the world. And that is something the president wants to end. And we are already actively taking steps to do that. The pharmaceutical benefit managers, the middlemen who are supposed to negotiate drug prices, have developed a retinue, an arsenal of intrigues and scams to enrich themselves and pay themselves kickback instead of giving us discounts on our drugs. Well, there's a lot of things that we need to do to bring down drug pricing, and that's a priority for the president.
Well, and I know it's something you've got on your hot sheet as well. And if we change what we're feeding our children, is it not possible to change this level of chronic disease within a generation? If we change what we're feeding our kids, can we not change this chronic disease epidemic literally in a generation?
Yeah, I mean, we can end the chronic disease epidemic. We can trace it directly to ultra-processed foods and to all these chemicals that are used in our country that are illegal in Europe. We have 10,000 ingredients in our foods in this country. In Europe, they have 400. The vast majority, 80% of our ingredients are illegal in Europe. And you have companies like Kellogg's that are making Fruit Loops, one version for the United States that's loaded with red dye, blue dye, yellow dye, and all these other chemicals. The same product that they're selling in Canada and in Europe does not have those chemicals in it. McDonald's French fries in our country has 11 ingredients. The same product in France or England has 3 ingredients. The companies can make safe products, but it's cheaper for them to make poison and sell us food-like products that are destroying our children. And Dr. Phil, you and I have talked about this. It's not only affecting our physical health, like diabetes rates and rheumatoid arthritis, the autoimmune diseases, the ADHD, and all this parade of neurodevelopmental disorders and allergies that our kids now are beleaguered by. It also directly affects mental health. And, we're seeing that in studies from Harvard and Stanford. There's a Harvard scientist that has treated children who have lost schizophrenia diagnoses by changing their diet.
Yes.
And so, this is one of the big contributors to the mental health crisis, which is one of your preoccupations. All these kids who are suicidal, who are depressed, who are addicted, who are alcoholic, who feel purposeless and alienated in their lives. And one of the paths out there, that's not the only thing we have to do, but one of the paths out of that crisis is to change our food.
Yeah, Bobby, can I just ask a
Please,
question?
go ahead. I was going to ask you.
Yeah, we talked a lot about this tonight. That's why Dr. Phil brought it up. So we hear politicians, Obama, Trump, et cetera, tell us that they're going to take on corporations, and they're going to take on donors, and they're going to negotiate drug prices. You said it here today. So, Bobby, can we hold you accountable? So if you guys do not negotiate drug prices for Medicare, have you failed?
Yeah, if we don't lower drug prices, we failed. I'll take that bargain with you, Jack. There's other things that, for me are my priorities. Drug price is one of them, but getting the chemicals out of our food, getting the toxins out of our food, returning health to the American kids is probably that's the reason I took this job. And that's the reason I ran for president. And that is my principal priority.
Well, and you know that I'm going to be shoulder to shoulder with you every step of the way, and I hope you know that, because I believe in what you're doing and I believe in what you're saying.
Yeah, Dr. Phil, you've been an invaluable supporter for me. You're one of the first people to give me airtime when I was heavily censored by everybody else. And, I'm very, very grateful to you for that. And I'm grateful for your courage in standing up for free speech and allowing these stories to be told on the public airwaves.
Yeah, well, it's my honor. So, Mr. Secretary, get some sleep, and we'll talk to you again very soon, sir. Thank you very much.
I look forward to it. I'm always love to talk to you. And Cenk, it's very, very good to see you too.
Good to see you. Yep.
All right. Joining us now is my very good friend, Stephen A. Smith. Stephen.
What's going on, big time? How are you, Dr. Phil? How are you, Cenk? How's everything going?
How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Doing great. It's good to see y'all. How you doing?
I'm all right. So did you watch the speech tonight?
From start to finish. It almost put me to sleep because it was too damn long, but it was one of his better speeches. I'll give him credit for that.
Hey, don't sugarcoat it, man. Spit it out. Just tell us how you feel.
I just thought that, listen, he did what I expected him to do. He touted his success in terms of focusing on immigration. I think that was necessary. Focusing on the tariffs, I think that was necessary. A lot of people may not agree with that plan. I have a wait and see approach. I recognize that from a strategic perspective, you got to make other nations pay for penalizing you and charging you more than you charge them. When he brings up the fact that they charge us more for tariffs than we do for them, considering how generous we are to the world, then I think that's a legitimate argument to the American taxpayer. And what you're trying to do if you're Donald Trump is get our money back, or at least some of it. We're over $37 trillion in debt. Do I know if this is the right plan or not? No, I don't. But it's clear what his intent is as it pertains to that. And you have to give credit where credit is due in that regard. That I think it was a bit petty at times, particularly how often he mentioned Joe Biden. Sure, I did find myself asking, rhetorically for compassion from the standpoint that Joe Biden is 82 years of age. He is gone. He ain't coming back. Let sleeping dogs lie, per se. Just move on. But that's not Trump's nature. We know that. And so you take it with a grain of salt and you move forward. But in the end, I thought that it was one of his better speeches because he was very piercing. He was talking about safety in the streets of America. He was talking about the economy. He was talking about the immigration crisis being addressed. He was talking about tariffs and stuff like that. And it all seemed to the benefit of America. Whether the results will show that remains to be seen. But still in all, I think that he gave the right message. And I also think that, Representative Al Green, I don't want to call him out. I have profound respect for any representative on Capitol Hill, particularly one that's representing my community. But there's no harm in sitting there and listening. You're an elected official. Show decorum. And I was disappointed that he elected not to do that in this particular case. I agree.
Not a good look.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stephen, what was your favorite part of the speech and what was your least favorite part of the speech?
Well, my favorite part was him talking about the border because I think it was necessary. When I just finished interviewing former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who's now running for the mayor's seat in New York. And I just finished interviewing him on my YouTube show, the Stephen A. Smith Show. And he talked about safety in the streets of America. And he talked about why that's important, because everything starts and stops there. If you don't feel safe, You don't want to shop. You don't want to go out. Essentially, you don't want to pay money. You don't want to spend money. And if you're not spending money, you're not fueling the economy in the capitalistic society. And then we all go down. And so I recognize that. And I agree with that kind of sentiment. So I appreciated the president focusing on that. Again, my least favorite was the pettiness in terms of pointing the finger at Biden for everything. I thought that, in the end, you might have been right about most things. But how do we know if you're not right, if you're right or not about all the things? And by mentioning him so consistently, it's almost like you're hedging your bets. Yeah, I'm taking risks with the tariffs. I'm taking risks with an abundance of other things. I don't know how right I'm going to be. But if I'm not successful, ladies and gentlemen, look at Biden. Don't look at me. It doesn't work that way. You're Donald Trump. You're the 47th president of the United States, just like you were the 45th president of the United States. You're supposed to know how to get things done and turn things around. Damn it, we expect you to do it. Get it done. Don't point the finger at your predecessor. He's gone. It's your job now. Handle your business.
If you could ask him a question tonight after hearing that speech, if you could ask President Trump a question, what would it have been?
I would have asked him, number one, when it comes to DEI, how come every time we mention DEI and we allude to incompetence or a lack of merit, we're always giving the impression that it's minorities in this country. There are an abundance of people, white, black, and otherwise, everything in between, that benefited in some capacity from DEI. Let's not be divisive. I would ask him, what are you going to do to bring the country together? Are you even concerned about that at all? Because I think that when you think about us, in terms of this nation, I'm just looking at you now, Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil, I saw you, I didn't go to the Trump rally at Madison Square Garden, but I saw you there. I don't agree with everything that I saw from every Trump supporter. It doesn't stop me from caring about you. It doesn't stop me from thinking that you're a good man and a decent human being and you care about what's in the best interest of America. When are we going to get to the point where I can look at you, no matter your ethnicity, your gender, or anything else, and just say, hey, you have a vision for America. I have a vision for America. Let's sit down and talk about it and see which idea is better so we can reach some kind of compromise and understanding what's in the best interest of our country. Because when you have us divided in the streets, it just sifts every place, everywhere, every walk of life, in the workplace, in restaurants, in malls, anywhere you go. When you have that level of divisiveness, sometimes things could be good, and you don't even know because there's so much hatred in your heart and your soul that you don't know how to act and you're on the defensive. I think that's what's going on in this country. I think it's been going on for far too long. And I think we all need to come together to do a better job of eradicating that.
But it's like nobody will take a chance to be honest. When I think I was the only one in Madison Square Garden. I don't know how many people were there, 20,000 people or whatever. I was the only one that stepped up and said, first, I'm not here to endorse Donald Trump, and I don't agree with everything he says and does. And everybody stood up and clapped because everybody believes that. They just are afraid to say it. And I said it, and everybody said, thank you. We don't agree with everything he says and does. He sounds crazy some of the time.
But it starts with our elected officials. And I point the finger, and I'm not talking about the president here, the former or the present. I'm talking about the politicians on Capitol Hill in the House and the Senate. When are you going to have the guts and have the courage of your convictions to be about what's doing right instead of preserving your status and your seats in the House of Congress or the Senate? I think that's something that we need to point to when we're looking at them. When the Senate confirmation hearings were taking place, they talk about how their responsibility was to consult and advise and stuff like that. But far more often than not, you're just going along with the program. I think one of the most egregious things that's going on in the world of politics, guys and ladies, at this particular moment in time is that, do you realize that outside of campaigning, you genuinely can get away with working as a politician? All you have to do is vote on your side because that's all they're doing these days. The Democrats go vote with the Democrats. The Republicans vote with the Republicans. I'm not saying there's nothing that's bipartisan that's going on, but by and large, all we hear about is how folks vote along party lines. I sent you up to Capitol Hill to work. to compromise and to work with one another and figure out what's in the best interest of all Americans. No one gets everything they want, but let's make sure we're compromising to a degree where people get some of what they want, so we feel like we're moving forward as a nation. We're not doing that right now. We've got people catering to their own cliques, and it's assisted in creating this divide, and it's sifted down to citizens in the United States of America. And when I think about us being divided, one of the reasons I'm hell-bent on not falling for that is because I think they use us as pawns. They're the problem. They ultimately cause us problems. And our angst makes it seem like we're the problem, but it really starts with them because they're not doing their damn job. Yeah. And that's what we need to call them out.
Yeah. Stephen, so I hear and agree with a lot of what you're saying tonight. And, the egg example was great. Egg prices go up under Trump. He blames Biden. But we all know it was under you. We all know, brother, right? So, but I'm curious, there's talk of you maybe running for president one day. What drives you? If you were president, what's the one issue that you would want to get solved that makes you even think about running if you are?
Top two things on my mind would be safety in the streets, and it would be a flourishing economy. I think when people have money in their pockets, they have something to lose. And when they have something to lose, they act accordingly. When you have nothing to lose, then you're more of a risk, because most people's definition of happiness is to bring folks down to their level as opposed to elevating and ascending themselves up to the levels of those who have a legitimate reason to be happy. And so I think that when you talk about making sure that the streets are safe, to go to work, to go out and have a good time, to enjoy your life, and you're gainfully employed, I think that goes a long, long way. As it pertains to my political aspirations, I have none. I am with ESPN. I'm very, very happy doing what I'm doing. I've been blessed to be a highly successful sports broadcaster and analyst. Some people call me the best in the country. I'll leave that to them to tell you whether that's true or not. I don't know. I just know I'm paid like it, and I like that. And so I like my life. I have no desire to be in politics, but I always leave the door open only from this perspective. And there's two things. Number one, I've always been fascinated by politics in terms of debate. I'm not an aficionado, but I'm a conscientious observer. I pay attention to current affairs and what have you, and I have an opinion about that. And I've always salivated for the opportunity to be on that debate stage for a presidential debate, because I think I'd smoke almost anybody that went up against me, especially the politicians I see out there now. That's number one. And on a more serious level, number two, no matter how successful I am, if the country is in absolute shambles, and we have nothing but garbage as candidates, nobody that's interested in looking out for the best interests of all Americans, then would I reconsider if my pockets were fat and I didn't have my quality of life? I didn't have to worry about my quality of life being compromised? Yes, I would, but I'm not a politician. I don't think I can lead like a lot of these governors can lead and stuff like that. I don't know politics like that, but I know that I'd hire people who did, and I know that I'm not scared to make decisions. And most importantly, as a proud Black man, even though I would definitely do what I can to uplift my community, ultimately, it would be about the United States of America, not a segment of the population. I want everybody flourishing, and that would be my mission, and that's how I would react.
You make way too much sense to be president of the United States. I don't know how that would ever work.
I agree.
Stephen, thank you for joining us tonight.
All right, buddy.
Love you, man.
Good to see you, man. All right, love you too, man. You take care.
All right, let's take a look at what some of Senator Elisa Slotkin had to say during the Democratic response tonight.
But it's always important to read the fine print. So, do his plans actually help Americans get ahead? Not even close. We need a more efficient government. You want to cut waste? I'll help you do it. But change doesn't need to be chaotic or make us less safe. But it's also at risk when the president pits Americans against each other, when he demonizes those who are different and tells certain people they shouldn't be included. Because America is not just a patch of land between two oceans. We are more than that. Generations have fought and died to secure the fundamental rights that define us. Those rights and the fight for them make us who we are. We're a nation of strivers, risk takers, innovators, and we are never satisfied. That is America's superpower.
Wow, good points. Joining us now is Nina Turner, former Ohio State Senator. Senator, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Nina, I wanted to ask the first question of you, if you don't mind. So, of course, you were one of the top people in Bernie Sanders' campaign in 2016 and 2020. So, as someone on the populist left, what did you make of the speech? Was there any parts that you liked, and what was the part that bothered you the most?
Well, Cenk, I certainly enjoyed, and to Dr. Phil, I certainly enjoyed him lifting up DJ. I agree with you both, the commentary of how disgraceful it was for Democrats not to stand up in honor of that little boy and what his family is going through. I wish President Donald J. Trump, who's on his second tour of duty, so to speak, would have said that he plans to pass universal health care in the United States of America. Most bankruptcies are based on people's medical debt, and we are the only industrialized nation on the face of the earth that does not have some type of universal health care. People are putting insulin on credit cards. And so it makes no sense in a hegemonic nation like ours that we do not have universal health care. But honoring DJ in that way was indeed a beautiful thing. President Trump, he's going to Trump. So, referring to Senator Elizabeth Warren as Pocahontas, I thought was distasteful. He shouldn't have done that. There was no need to do that. He doesn't know how to be graceful, even in victory. I'm just shaking my head at that. And folks are talking about decorum. The real decorum that we need is to make sure that the American people are not living paycheck to paycheck. 60% of them are saying that they are. And I believe, Cenk, that the conservatives are confusing the anger that Americans have with the Democrats with support for their agenda. President Trump ran as a populist, but yet him and his co-president Elon Musk have declared war on federal workers. It used to be a time in this country that we saw our neighbors, our family, our friends, and even our frenemies who worked in the federal government, people who worked in veteran affairs and the Social Security offices, the post office, as public servants that we looked up to, but now they vilify them. So I think it's going to be very hard for this president on one hand to say that he's going to lift the working class people of this nation, and on the other hand, he's declaring war on another type of working class people. That dog just does not hunt.
So, Nina, the Democrats are now battling amongst themselves as to what to do. There's literally a portion of them, in fact, the majority, that are saying maybe the best option is to do nothing, which I feel like we've heard a lot from the Democratic Party in our lifetimes. And so what do you think is the right way to approach the Trump administration? If you were in charge of the Democratic Party, how would you handle it?
Well, first of all, Cenk, they've been doing nothing this whole entire time. I mean, I know Dr. Phil gave the senator a nod. She made some good points, but points were boring. A lot of platitudes per usual. That is how the Democrats operate. I would advise the Democrats, first of all, they need to do an autopsy as to why they lost this race. There's a reason why President Donald J. Trump got the popular vote and won the Electoral College. You cannot reform the Democratic Party without first the Democratic Party looking in the mirror. The Democratic Party did not do enough to change material conditions for the people in this country. And so President Trump, too, has to take some responsibility for this. I want folks to remember this is not, again, his first time. And so the suffering that people are feeling today, their concerns about inflation, people primarily voted for President Donald J. Trump because they believed that he was going to bring down the cost of eggs, that he was going to do something about inflation, and not necessarily for some of the things that him and his colleagues are standing up and cheering for. So I would advise the Democratic Party to take a hard look, to apologize to the American people for being weak and for failing to truly change their material conditions, and then be the party that stands up. If we want America to be great, let's have universal health care. If we want America to be great, let's have universal child care. If we want America to be great, let's have debt-free college. Let's have those conversations with President Trump. And because President Trump has such a competitive streak, I would advise Democrats to play on that competitive streak. President Donald J. Trump, we know you want to be the best president ever known in the universe to generations past, present, and yet unborn. Work with us to make that happen, and let's change material conditions. But the Democrats cannot continue to just point the finger, Cenk, and you and I have talked about this several times. I mean, for the entire 4 years that President Biden was in office, they were blaming President Donald J. Trump for everything. And now you got President Trump doing the same thing again, even in his speech. These people have got to get a clue. I know that this was not technically a State of the Union. It was a joint address. But if this were a real State of the Union, I would ask President Trump to analyze the state of the streets. 50% of Americans said that in 2024, they could barely pay their rent or barely pay their mortgage. People are dying in this country. President Trump is talking about driving down the deficit, or driving down the debt, I should say. Well, one of the ways that he can really do something to make America great is to undo homelessness, invest that $20 billion that is necessary for our sisters and our brothers, our family and friends and frenemies, not to lay on streets at night in the country that is known as the United States of America. There are many things that President Donald J. Trump can do. There are many things that the Democrats can push him to do, playing on his fact that it is all about him. Sometimes the president reminds me of Mr. Smith in The Matrix. Me, 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 me.
I like your plan.
That's good.
I like your plan to take advantage of that. Turn it on its head. That's at least a strategy. We now have an official Democratic strategy on the board.
All right, that's good. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Nina.
All right.
Pleasure.
Now, all right. Any final questions from the audience here? I did think there was a bright spot when Trump called Liz Warren Pocahontas. I thought she handled that with grace. Mm-hmm. She was, people think I'm one way or the other. She's actually a very good friend of mine. I've launched 2 of her books, wrote a foreword for 1 or 2 of them. I mean, we're actually very good friends.
That's what I say about you.
And of your bona fides, right? But I thought she handled that with grace. She laughed and clapped instead of, grimacing and all. That kind of attitude we need more of. I totally disagree with her politics, but she's a great gal. I like her, but I don't agree with her politics at all.
Yeah, look, as I said earlier, she did set up the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It did get us back $20 billion. I wish it could get us another $20 billion. That's what I'm talking about when I say don't shut everything down. You got to think through what you want to shut down. You got to think through what's causing the problem. How do I address that instead of just blindly chopping away? And so, look, as good as he was on crime.
Well, say what you want to say about crime. Then I want to tell you something.
Okay. As compelling as I thought he was objectively on crime, and I know how much the American people care about that, et cetera. What he didn't talk about is white-collar crime. And so, we've got people moved out of the SEC. We got people moved out of the IRS. We got people moved out in so many different areas. The inspector generals are gone. So, Doge says they're the watchers, but who's watching the watchers? And so I'm worried about that, and I wish he'd focus on that too.
All right, well, hang on. Questions or comments from you guys before we end here? Yes, ma'am. You're Deidre, right?
I'm Rochelle.
Rochelle. Is it Rochelle?
Rochelle.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Okay.
I just want to say I purposely wore red, white, and blue today.
Very, very good.
Because I want to remind us as a takeaway that we all have more in common than we do differences. And regardless if we're Democrats or Republicans or others, let's just remember we have a fight together. We all want the same thing. I want my children to grow up in a country where they can go to school and where they can have the best education. I want good health care. We all want good health care. We keep saying that. If we would focus more on the things we have in common versus our differences, we could fight together as a country that we could be unified. But we have to stop focusing on all the things that we do wrong and all of our mistakes and all of our flaws, and we got to start looking at the positive.
Well said. All right, who else? If you have a comment, just stand up. We'll bring you the microphone, and we'll just go rapid fire. So who's next? Stand up back there. Go ahead, and then you'll go back there.
I'm Deetra.
Right. All
Dr.
right.
Phil. I want to salute you for being the one to stand up when no one wants to speak and tell America that we are accountable. And we thank you for that. We thank Dr. Phil for the braveness and the boldness. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Back there. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Ricky. One thing I noticed that President Trump did not talk much about was finding the cure to childhood cancer. On his first term at the last State of the Union address, there was a child there that did have brain cancer. And that's one thing he said he was going to go after. I'd like to also see the cure to multiple sclerosis because that hits home with my family personally and, other diseases as well. And Dr. Phil, thank you for bringing people together for times like this.
Thank you for your comment. Okay. Who else? Just stand up. Just stand up. We can't find you if you don't stand up. So stand up. We'll bring you a microphone. Go ahead.
I'm Toby.
Yeah, we got you this time, Toby.
Okay. I'm Toby, and I'm 21. Anyway, I just want to say, I work 2 jobs, take care of, this is my husband right here that I take care of and stuff. And I just want to say, it's hard. We're married. Oh, my Lord. Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, right in front of you. Right, straight in front of you. Yes, ma'am, your name?
I'm Leslie.
Okay, Leslie, go ahead.
I just want to thank you as well because you did, stand up and cover everybody. And we feel very thankful for that. And we have a lot of gratitude. And I just want to remind everybody that we're all Americans and we're one nation under God. And we, in the big scheme of things, we're all the same family. We're all family. And we should be looking out for each other, no matter whether you're a Democrat. Forget about Democrats. Forget about any, Republicans or, let's just all be independents and we'll work together as a team and we'll bring this country to the best we can possibly do and just, help America get great and wonderful and incredible and also in great shape and working out and getting healthy and everybody can, do that and we can all just love on each other.
Yeah. You do.
As they're passing the mic, let me say one thing. Look, to the point that you're all making, don't let them divide you on identity, right? They call them wedge issues for a reason. They're supposed to create a wedge between you guys. So think about economic issues because economic issues unite us and demand that your politicians work for you, not the donor class, not the rich, not the corporations, but for all of you.
Okay.
That's exactly some of the things I was going to say, because in listening to everyone tonight and talking with you when we were out there, we are the same. We are the same. We have same issues, the critical issues. My question for me, I'm a little bit too old to do it, but we don't like who we have in office. We don't like how they're governing. We have the power to change that. So if it's not changing, we need to look in the mirror.
Yeah,
Why isn't it changing?
Yeah, for sure.
Because we don't need to keep it going this way.
You bet. Yes, sir.
I think from experiences, I worked with Julie Johnson's campaign last fall. If you know who she is, she's a new congresswoman. I think it's really wonderful getting to meet with voters through there and then getting to meet everybody through here. I met a lot of wonderful people who don't agree with me on a lot of things. I think it's just really awesome seeing everybody come together and really just speak about the things that bring us together rather than divide us. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. Back here behind you. First name and whatever you want to say.
Hi, my name's Erica, and as much as we've talked about politics and sides, I just wanted to remind you all that it really starts at home. We can talk all we want about what's happening out there, but if we can't be humble enough to see what we're doing at home with our own lives, when doors are closed, when we know we're looking at our kids and our husband and our families, that's what really matters, because I think that's what's going to impact the world, how we raise our kids, how we take care of each other, how we plant a garden and learn how to have, herbal remedies and all these things. And we have to study these things. We have to be intentional. But it starts with us. It starts at home before we can make an impact out there.
Yeah, it really does. Sure.
Hi, my name is Marjorie, and I'd like to say that we are one nation under God, Amen. Indivisible. And I am a conservative. But first, I'm a Christian. Before I'm Black, before I'm a woman, before I'm my mother's daughter, I'm a Christian. And as a Christian, there are a lot of things that we can accomplish just by following the Bible in this country. And the reason we are so messed up, because we have no laws anymore. We can't come together on anything because we have become a godless nation. When we bring God back into the schools, and when we bring God back into this country, and we serve God as a nation, we'll come together. We won't always be fighting, but we have to honor God in this nation, because when a nation forgets God, that's when the nation is destroyed.
All right. Well, do you have a final comment you want to make, and then I'll make a final comment?
Yeah, I want to ask you guys a final question, because there's so much division in this country, and the left wing is worried that the right wing hates them based on their identity, whether it's minorities or LGBTQI plus, etc. And then the right wing is afraid that the left wing just hates them, period. Right? That they just don't want to talk to them. They think they're all racist, this, that, the other thing, right? So there's all this division and hatred. But now that you guys have met each other a little bit and you guys have spent some time together, raise your hands if anyone in this room hates someone else in this room. Let the record note, no one raised their hand. Oh, no, actually one. Okay. But you know what? That's bold. That's courageous too. Now raise your hand if you all want to and are dying to actually get to know each other, work together, and love each other. See, that's what we want. That's what we want to drive towards. And unfortunately, so many times our leaders block us from doing that, and they divide us instead of bringing us together. So let's try for that. All of us together, whether you're on the left or the right, just please don't have assumptions in your head when you're talking to another human being. Listen to them first, and then have a human interaction. And I think that'll make it a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree. Well, there's two things I want to say quickly in closing. And number one, I spent time in Carolina after the hurricane came through there. And I saw some things happen there that really inspired me. I saw people that didn't know each other that were going to incredible lengths to help one another. I know at one time I was in the basement under somebody's house, and there was mud like that deep in their house. When I got there, it had been up to 7 or 8 feet. And we were just in a chain gang taking mud out in buckets. And there were neighbors there whose houses had been flooded, but they were down here helping this neighbor get mud out of their house. And so I'm in this chain gang of bringing mud up out of this house, and not one person asked the person next to him in the chain gang, "Are you a Democrat or a Republican?" Nobody gave a damn. It was America at its best. I was fortunate to have a fleet of Black Hawk helicopters that were taking us into these remote villages in the mountains. People were cut off. You couldn't get there by road or rail. Only place was by helicopter. And we were taking them in water and food and Starlink hookups because they were out of communication. They couldn't call their families or anything. And they didn't care what anybody's ideology was. They were just so thankful and so grateful. And they were asking, how can we help? It was absolutely America at its best. And I grew up in communities like that. And it was inspiring. It was just absolutely inspiring to see that. And that reminded me, they're showing some of that footage back there just to me for some reason. I don't know why. But thank you for letting me see it. But these were real people that really mattered. And the other thing I wanted to say is, I think one of the most important days in America in my lifetime was 9/12/2001. It wasn't 9/11. We all know what happened on 9/11. But on 9/12, we were all Americans. We had been attacked on American soil. And on that morning, think back to where you were on that morning. If you were alive then, if you were old enough to remember it, how did you feel on that morning? There weren't any Democrats, there weren't any Republicans, there wasn't any left, there wasn't any right. We were Americans and somebody had attacked our country. And somebody had attacked our way of life and what we believed in and what we stood for. And by God, we stood together. And I just hope, I pray that we don't have to have another 9/11 to get our attention, to remind us that we are all Americans. Think about it in your own family. You all think you have problems. You're arguing with your husband or your wife or your son or your daughter on things that are just life-changing, just you're willing to just die on that hill until you get a phone call and find out that your son or your daughter has a spot on their lung, or that somebody was critically injured in a car wreck by a drunk driver. Then everything that you thought was so important, everything you thought was so critically life determining, just goes away, because what really matters comes into clear focus. Do you hear what I'm saying? All the things that you think are so important. You go to Thanksgiving, I can't sit next to that bitch because she voted for so-and-so. I don't want to talk to her because she did this. Until you find out on the way home, she got broadsided and killed. And then you find out, what were we even arguing about? It happens in families. I always tell people, don't let the sun set on you without finding and reaching out to the people you love and care about and telling them everything you need to say and doing everything you need to do. And I say that to us as a country. Why would we do this? We live in the greatest country in the world. We shouldn't let the sun set on this country another day without taking action and reaching out to somebody that we're divided from and saying, hey, I know that we're divided. I know that we have a different point of view, but we're both Americans, and I want to tell you I'm your American brother or sister, and I love you, and I care about you, and I want the best for you. So if you want to hate me, but I don't hate you. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not scared of you. I don't resent you. I want good things for you. How great would it be if 10,000 people did that? And then those 10,000 people did it. And then those 10,000 people and those 10,000 people did it. It starts, you said it, it starts with us. It starts at home. And every one of you here and every one of you at home can do that. We talk about how divided we are. We is us. We are us. We are the ones that are divided. And we can change that. You and I may see things differently on birthright. We don't, but we could. But that doesn't matter. You don't have to love everything about somebody else to love that person. I've said this before. One of my best friends in the world is Ron White, the comedian. Y'all know Ron White? Okay, I haven't had a drink in 50, 60 years. I just don't drink. My dad was an alcoholic. I saw what it did to him. I said, I just don't want to drink. Ron White's a drunk. And when he's not drinking, he's smoking dope. He's smoking weed. Okay, I don't like that about him. But I love him. He's one of the most tender-hearted people in the world. He's one of the best fathers you could ever imagine. He loves his son. I mean, he's a great guy. He would lay down in traffic for me. I don't like that about him. But I don't like, no, not that they would lay down in traffic. I don't like the drinking or the drugs. He's actually sober now, sort of. He's
sort of.
Well, he doesn't drink anymore. But they arrested him in Florida one day. They looked in his bag and said, sir, you got a quarter ounce of weed in here. And he said, well, officer, if I got a quarter ounce of weed, I consider myself out of weed. They arrested him. And here I am, a teetotaler. We don't agree on everything, but I still love him. And we get along great. We've been friends for 20 years. You don't have to love everything about somebody else to love them. Get over yourself. Hell, you might be completely wrong. I used to be a therapist. No, I did. I used to be in private practice. I did marital therapy. And I was the worst marital therapist in the history of the world. Hell, everybody I talked to got a divorce. I mean, seriously, I'd be talking to them for like 5 minutes. I go, my God, I can't stand either one of you. No wonder you can't get along. You get a divorce. But I did used to do that. And I was terrible at it, so I quit doing it. But the point is, I would see people fighting to the death about how to raise their kids, and I'm sitting there thinking, neither one of you is within a country mile of doing what you need to be doing. You're both so wrong, but you're fighting to be right. You could be totally wrong. Get over yourself. Don't be a right fighter. Be a peacemaker. Be a peacemaker. You heard me when you saw my first interview with Trump. I spent 20 minutes getting him to agree to not go on a revenge tour. And he did agree to it, and he hasn't done it yet. He hasn't done it yet. I got him to agree, don't do that. Did it help when they came after you? It didn't help America. It won't help America if you go after them. Be a peacemaker. I just say, you guys didn't have to be here tonight. It's 11 o'clock at night, and you came down here because you care about this country. Put it into motion. You put it in motion coming here. Put it into motion in your lives. God bless you, and thank you for coming tonight. Thank you so much. I want to thank Cenk for joining me here tonight. For all of you at home, you can watch Cenk and the Young Turks on the Young Turks Network and on YouTube. I'd also like to thank RFK Jr., Tom Homan, Stephen A. Smith, Representative Ro Kahana, and former Ohio State Senator Nina Turner for joining us tonight as well. And finally, I'd like to thank all of you here tonight for participating. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. All right. Go this way.